I want to talk about my Scorpio North Node experience. I am in an activation of my North Node. I've been experiencing this for a while now, and I want to talk about it because I feel like maybe someone out there with a North Node in Scorpio or even North Node in the eighth house, maybe they can relate to it. I hear and I've watched and read other people's interpretation of this particular placement, but I don't particularly feel like a lot of people speak of it from a personal perspective, so I'm gonna do that now. So I have a few things in my eighth house. I have Chiron in my eighth house, and I have Mars in my eighth house, and I also have Pluto on my midheaven conjunct my Venus and Jupiter, and I have a Scorpio North Node. So I have a lot of Pluto energy. Pluto makes aspects to like my Mercury and my ascendant, and also Pluto is transiting my Sun, Neptune, and Uranus right now. I've been doing it for a couple years now, and so I'm experiencing a very extreme Plutonian experience in my life, and it's almost overwhelming to the point of feeling suffocated in my life. Um, I want to give a trigger warning, but this has been such heavy transformation in my life that it's made me not even really want to live at times. I'm thankful for not necessarily having that state of mind anymore, but it is that heavy. I just want to give you the magnitude of what it is, and from an astronomical perspective, like Pluto is considered a dwarf planet. It was formed in the Kuiper Belt, which is where there's a lot of volatile elements out there. There's lots of shards of debris and ice, and there's just so much stuff out there. It's very tumultuous when you think about what Pluto is and how it was formed. It was formed in chaos. It was shards of things floating around that formed together. And also, Pluto has an irregular orbit around the sun. So, Pluto does not necessarily stay in a sign, for a secure amount of time, like you would consider like like the sun or the moon or other placements that tend to be more stationary or more predictable with their patterns of cycling through the signs. But yeah, so Pluto is very volatile and chaotic. And so when Pluto comes into contact with major points on your chart, like your first, fourth, seventh, or 10th house, or a personal planet, or when you have a lot of energy being activated in your eighth house, or Scorpio energy, you're going to find yourself experiencing a good amount of what I would say chaotic transformation. And so, speaking about what this is, at least for me, what it has looked like for me has been kind of coming face to face with who I am underneath the rebel of my life. I feel like many times life has come crashing down on me and knocked me down and knocked me out, and really, like, I feel like life has really um, made me experience many deaths. I would say deaths of my ego, deaths of ideas, deaths of dreams, deaths of hopes, deaths of even myself internally. I've experienced feeling dead inside multiple times in my life, and I feel like having this North Node in Scorpio, I'm finally experiencing it in the full throttle that I've only had maybe like pieces of it, transitions of it, segments of this level of an ego death, this level of a transformation. And this is a level of transformation that I see is trending me for the better, as opposed to times in my life when I experienced these changes. It felt like I was being pummeled and attacked for no reason in life. And it hurt me so bad to go through those things. Oh, it's really nice, Seven. I think that's how you say your name. I hope I said it correctly. It's okay, son. So, Scorpio North Node people, I just want to talk about our South Node because that's how you can understand. Before you can know where you're going, you need to know where you're leaving from. And so, having a Taurus South Node means that you have a Venusian South Node. It's Venus. It's ruled by the second house, the house of possessions, values, material assets, tangible things, money. It can even represent family. Okay, I'm happy I said it correctly. It can represent family. It can even represent like your throat, your sinuses, um, your vocal cords. So, it represents, like, I would say, items. Second house, a person with a lot of stuff in their second house, they could be a hoarder. They could be people who hold on to things. And see, like Taurus energy, second house energy is fixed. It's fixed, it's earth, it's Venus. So you are comfortable when you think about fixed earth Venus. That means you're comfortable. You ain't going nowhere because you're comfortable. When you lay down in the bed and you're comfortable and you're relaxing, you know, you don't want to leave. Like right when it's up in the morning and it's warm, you don't want to get out the bed, or when you're in the shower and you're comfortable, you don't want to get out because then you're going to be cold. That's Taurus energy. And so we've built lifetimes learning the lessons and mastering, finding stability, comfort, mastering wealth. Even I would even say doing things by ourselves, being self-reliant, um, headstrong, stubborn, getting to a place of really, like, Taurus is unmovable. It's an ox. Like, you're not going to move unless you want to, unless you're willing to do so. Heart, body, mind, soul. You have to be completely together and in alignment with yourself to make moves. Taurus does not move on a whim. Taurus moves once it is good and ready to. And so we have mastered that. And that's kind of what we were born into, this energy in life, where as we grow into ourselves, we tend to have a fear of change, or we resist change because we get comfortable with what has been and what is in our lives, to a point of even things that may not really be good, may not really be serving us. If they're familiar, they can be something that we hold on to. And I'm sorry, my son is nursing. Um, and so for me, I can think of it like that, especially like Venus ruling the South Node, Taurus, that can show staying in relationships, being in relationships that don't serve you, having a lot of karmic partners in this lifetime, experiencing, um, a hard time letting people go once you've grown in attachment to them, especially because with Venus. So you have, once you get feelings for someone, it's hard to let them go. Once you start caring about somebody, it's hard to let them go. And so we can show ourselves, especially me having a Venus and Scorpio and with Pluto, like, it is so hard. I think to myself personally, it's so hard for me to let go of people that I once loved. It especially once I start caring about you, it's like, even if we're not together, I still care about you. I still love you. And that's just me. But having Scorpio North Node, it will put you in a position where you're here to evolve. The comforts of life, the pleasures of life, the things that you once relished in, the things that you may have once taken time to, I guess, get stabilized yourself into. Life is telling you, okay, it's time to grow, it's time to change, it's time to get up, it's time to experience that cold once you get out the shower. It's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to become something else, something new, something different. And for us having that Taurus South node, we're going to find that activating our North node in Scorpio is going to be harder than maybe others because we have fixed signs, two fixed signs that are resistant and stubborn. So it is going to be a little harder for us to change and to adapt because we resist this calling a little bit and we may put it off a little bit. And so what happens is when we get called into our North Node, especially because it's Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, when the universe is calling us and we're not answering because we're comfortable and we don't want to get up and we don't want to change, it's going to force us to change. And usually it's going to be traumatizing. Usually it's going to be a sudden change, a catastrophe, because that's all eighth house Pluto energy. It is going to force us out of our comfort zone. And whatever you're attached to, whatever you're really holding on to the most, is going to be what is pried out of your hands. And like I said, that change, especially that sudden change and that drastic, hard change, that is the kind that tends to hurt the most and it tends to be very life altering and even traumatizing. I can think to myself, like, you know, how much I've had to experience, how much I've had to lose during the process of my activation of my North Node. I've lost everything. I actually remember having to lose my pride, having to lose. Um, One second. Let me just finish my train of thought. I'll get to your question in a moment. Having to lose literally even money, like losing all the things that I once found myself attached to in order for this change to really take place and to really submit. But let me see your question in a second. What is your take on having a spirit relative attached to you? So, um, so if you're speaking of, there's a couple of ways that this can play out. Like if you're speaking of like maybe a spiritual husband, those exist. Especially for those of us that have incarnated from other realms or other areas of the universe. Or if you're speaking of like just having maybe an ancestor that maybe is gone, but they are attached to you in a spiritual way, like they want to follow you in your journey or they're, a part of your life because they're just very active in your life. I mean, I don't know exactly what question you're asking or how you're wanting, to specifically, I guess, get your question answered in a negative way. Can you elaborate? Because see, my take on it is if you have a spirit, first of all, if it's a relative, if it's an ancestor that is attached to you, first off, I would go as far as getting a divination to see what do they want, why are they attached to you. Before the relative isn't okay with his passing. Okay, so if you have, especially because you have a Scorpio North Node, meaning that, if you have any other placements in Scorpio, you are more than likely going to be a divine channeler, a medium, someone who is going to deal with dead folks, dead things a lot, especially as you grow and you get past your mid 20s. That's going to be very common for you. But you more than likely, especially because they're not okay with their passing, they may want you to help them with the transition. Me and my practice with my clients, I have had people who have had sudden deaths, that I would communicate with them and help the client to be able to help them to transition. But let's see what your question is. Let's see. Or your comment, excuse me. So he's attached to me and making me act out his bad behavior like laziness. Okay, so the only thing I can say about that is I if I were you, if you want to remove a spirit from being attached to you, and I wouldn't even say that they can make you. I mean, I don't have all the answers in this world. I would definitely go and ask someone else if you feel like you're not getting sufficient information from me. But there's multiple ways to cleanse yourself from a spirit, and to protect yourself from having spirits, especially because spirits can enter the body here, like at the nape of the neck, right where your head and your spine connect, and also through the belly button. Okay, so if I were you, I could you can do things to cleanse yourself. I know me personally, whenever I used to go to the cemetery. A lot of spirits wanted to attach themselves to me, and I had to be cleansed. So you may need to do that. You may need to do a cleansing, but you know, ancestors, they really don't have as much not to say they don't have as much power, but they were human beings. So even though there's things that they may be able to do in a spiritual realm, they're not elevated in consciousness or anything like that. Like they'll still be them. They're just no longer physically here. And so you don't have to accept laziness if you feel like you're being, you know, inhabited or possessed in a way, because that's what it sounds like what you're trying to say. If I were you, I would definitely make sure that that's an ancestor and not a spirit being a trickster posing as an ancestor. And I would also do the work to protect yourself, your body, because it sounds like you're a psychic sponge and like you're very prone to those types of influences. So check your Neptune placement, see if it's making aspects to your moon, ascendant, and your first house, 10th house, 12th house, if it's making aspects to any personal planets, because that can do that. I know me having a sun and Neptune in the same sign and degree. It's one of the reasons why I have experienced the kind of life that I have. Um, I would definitely go towards, maybe a wherever your ancestors practice, whatever their traditional religion was, I would go to a spiritualist within that tradition and see if there's work, if there's baths, medicine, soaps, ebo, whatever, to remove that. If there's like I know in Ifa we have what is called egbe, which are our heavenly, our spiritual mates, which is where, you know, I say like your spiritual husband can come from, or your children, or whatever, where they can find themselves, interacting and interfering with your life. And so a lot of times, if you initiate to egbe, or even just do offerings to your egbe to help them to leave you alone, then they can do so. But again, I would definitely check out and see what your traditional practices are and your ancestors' beliefs were, and get that handled within that particular community. I don't advise you to do anything on your own, and I don't advise you to, you know, Google it or speak with anybody on the internet and let them diagnose you without divining first. Just make sure that you go and you get the real, true, authentic help that you need, so that way you can handle that. Okay. Best of luck to you. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to my story about the North Node in Scorpio. Um, so when you go through a North Node in Scorpio awakening, you are going to become scorpionic. You're leaving from a Venusian fixed, stable lifestyle to a chaotic Kuiper belt dwarf planet type of life, which in and of itself is mind boggling, I would say. If you could never think of taking a privileged, rich, affluent person, that child, and letting them grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth and a trust fund, and you drop that person off in the middle of, I don't know, a freaking war zone, and they don't know what life is like. They have to now become a soldier. Like, that's what transitioning from a Taurus South node to a Scorpio North node is like. It's like going from a privileged private affluent school where your parents get you a BMW for your 16th birthday, and you can go to any, of the Ivy League schools, and you're already set up for success. That's Scorpio South, I mean, excuse me, Taurus South node. And then when you go and you're somehow deployed, and you're now having to fight in a fucking war zone and being traumatized every goddamn day and somehow survive it, that is Scorpio North Node. You are leaving your comfort zone and going into a war zone. Now, the thing about the war zone is that we all in our lives, in some point of time, of lifetimes, we're going to have to go through it. And it's just our turn. We're just ready for deep evolution and transformation. We're ready to level up from a stagnant life into a really profound, different level of understanding type of a life, you know. And so that Scorpio energy, you're going to really find yourself getting in touch with your deep emotions. The deep emotions, I would say, is the part that's involved with your sacral chakra, which is also around where Scorpio rules, which would be the genitals, reproductive system, and the rectum, and all this area of the body. And so, um, we're activating that area of our life, which is where creativity drums from, and the area that blocks the sacral chakra, like if you want shame and guilt and all that, that will block your sacral chakra. And so a lot of us with the Scorpio energy in life, we can experience a lot of shame, and we tend to hide things because we're ashamed of ourselves, and we're ashamed of our mistakes, and we're ashamed of our flaws, and we're ashamed of our emotions, and we're ashamed because people may not be able to understand us, or people may not really try to understand us, or we tend to feel like we have to do things on our own because in our past lifetimes we did it on our own. And so we tend to not share our deepest, darkest secrets. We tend to not feel safe and comfortable because if your sacral chakra is blocked, then your root chakra is also going to be blocked, which is right beneath it. Is where we feel stable and secure. And so we are not going to be able to really stand on our own feet. Living in this world, living in this reality is going to be very hard because your two foundational chakras are in disalignment with each other. Um, and so I felt unsafe in my body. I felt unsafe in my life, unsafe in my home. I felt ashamed. And I deal with that actually a lot, is learning that I'm not perfect, learning that I'm going to make mistakes, learning to be able to accept that, learning to not hide my mistakes from others. There's a lot of people who publicly shame others for making mistakes. And people who have a lot of Scorpio energy, or Pluto energy, or even eighth house energy, we can see what that is like for others, and we make those decisions that I'm never going to let anybody see me like that. I don't ever want nobody to know that I'm down bad. I don't ever want nobody to know that I'm struggling mentally, emotionally. I don't ever want nobody to know what my life is like at home. And we tend to hide the truth about ourselves. We tend to ignore that. We tend to suffer in silence. And so having the Scorpio North Node is saying, you have to sometimes be out loud with it. You might have to open up. You might have to let people in. You might have to let yourself be vulnerable and have intimacy, which is the things that Scorpio energy is the most afraid to do, because that is a soldier. They are conditioned to be soldiers. And what do soldiers get told is to never let their guard down, because then an enemy can get them. And with a Scorpio energy, eighth house energy, you feel like you don't know who's an enemy and who's not. Because a lot of times people who are close to you are going to betray you. A lot of times people who you love are going to hurt you. A lot of times people who you let in and trust are going to be the ones that stab you in the back. And so you tend to not know, well, damn, who can I trust? And who can I be around? And who can I, share myself with? And so we tend to introvert more and tend to become reclusive, retreating from others. And we crave the intimacy, we crave the belonging, we crave the community, we crave the love. We want all of those things, but we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable and authentic in order to get it. And that's the trade off, right? To protect yourself, you don't let nobody in, but also you don't have nobody there when you need someone. So, in this life, you're going to experience breakdowns in order to let you see that in order for you to get what you want, you have to do the things that you fear the most. You have to face your fears in this life. That is what Scorpio North Node is about, is running into the fire. And it is okay if you fall down, because guess what? You're the phoenix and you will rise from the ashes. So you can't hide that. You can't run away from your fate. Life is going to push you there. And let me tell you, when I found myself crying on a live video about not feeling perfect and not having my life together in the way that I wanted it to be, and realizing that some of my problems are not something that can be fixed with money, and letting everybody know that I don't have it all together. I am falling apart. When I finally opened up, I had everything open up. Within 2 days after that, I was approved for something that I had been waiting 7 months to get. I had had so many people reach out to me and let me know that they were hiding shame and guilt, and they felt as though they could open up and be honest about their pain when I bled out in front of everybody. And having a Scorpio North Node will, maybe yours won't do that, but I have Scorpio in my 10th house. Scorpio rules my 10th house, which is the house of publicity. So my growth, my evolution is one that is for public consumption. But wherever you have Scorpio at in your chart, if you have a Scorpio North Node, that's where you're going to find it. So I had taught a class with astrology, and I showed everybody the different quadrants and the ways in which your chart is set up. But like your first three houses is considered your first quadrant, which is really your personal self and maybe your very close inner circle, or even just you are going to be the main one that sees this evolution. But if it's in your second quadrant, which is in your house 4, 5, or 6, that may be within your family or your local community, like your your home, your hometown, your co-workers, your children, things like that. And if it's in your seventh, eighth, or ninth house, which is your third quadrant, that would probably mean that it would be involving with other people. You'll be having relationship changes, interpersonal connections that will transform, and that intimacy will come through that. Or if it's in your 10th, 11th, or 12th house, which is your service, your human contribution, your societal connection to the world, that's where you'll find, your North Node doing those things. So me having Scorpio 10th house with Pluto on my midheaven, it was me showing the world my strength by falling apart in front of everybody. And I'm just now coming to terms with that. That was probably one of my biggest fears, was being seen as not having it together. But I was the one that let everybody know that I didn't have it together. And I had people show me that they cared about me that I didn't even know were watching me. I didn't even know the effect that I had on certain people who expressed how thankful they were of me finally speaking my truth because it allowed them to speak theirs. And see, that's another thing, right? Because the South Node is Taurus and it rules the throat. And so sometimes with that Taurus energy, that throat energy, and then the genitals of Scorpio, it tends to be like we tend to hide our voice. We tend not to speak everything of our truth. We tend not to really share. So we tend to block our own throat chakras with this axis of a Taurus South Node and Scorpio North Node, and that activation forces you to have to speak your truth in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's you writing it, speaking it, sharing it in your everyday life, or finally addressing and telling people the truth. That is going to come out, even if it's word vomit or if it's just something that's erupting and you can't stop it, but it has to come out. Your truth, your story has to come out. And so I'm telling you guys my experience because it is a lot more involved, mentally, psychologically draining. Hi. It's a lot more of a, it's rough to experience scorpionic, plutonic, eighth house transits, placements, and things of that nature because it forces you in life to change. It forces you to grow. It forces you to face your fears. It forces your fears to be more prevalent and relevant in your life than maybe the average person. And so, having that experience, I had to experience my fears in public, right? Experiencing that people can see me as a flawed human being as opposed to the superwoman that people once put me up to think I was. I let people see that I didn't have it together, I wasn't okay, and that I was struggling. But that was a part of the activation, is to be able to do so. And in turn, I received community. In return, I received support. In return, I received help. I had to ask for help in order to get it. And having Scorpio North Node, you have to learn how to ask for and accept help because your South Node in Taurus wants you to do everything by yourself because that's what you've always done. But Scorpio North Node is saying you don't always have to do what's been done. You could do something new, and you will do something new. Matter of fact, you're going to have to do something new because the old shit ain't going to work. At some point in time, shit is just going to break down for you, and you have to do something different. And the thing about it is, you will always get something better when you do finally change. And that is the beauty of that, of Scorpio energy, is that every time you evolve, you're going to have something more intricate in your design. You're going to have more intelligence, more wisdom, more awareness, more understanding. You're going to have more of a resilience. So if life knocks you down, you can get back up 5 times faster. And you're going to be 10 times harder to push down. And that's the beauty of that. But yeah, I'm starting to love my North Node. I've actually gotten to a place where I've finally been able to let go of my karmic ties. Finally been able to learn the lessons that I needed to learn in love and from those that I once loved. those lessons that I couldn't seem to just walk away from, I now can. I no longer feel attached to anything or anyone. I don't even have an attachment to an outcome. I don't have attachments to how things get done, but they have found a way to work. Even if it doesn't happen when or how I want it, it will happen. And I'm learning to just trust and have complete faith and knowing that my Ori will guide me where I need to go. I just have to get out of my own way sometimes. I want to talk about my experience with a Reiki practitioner who I believe she is my mentor. Um, but she gave me a powerful Reiki session this morning, which really, she gave me a lot of insight. And I felt like for a minute, I felt like I didn't have the connection to the divine like I once did. And in the middle of that session, I was able to hear my ancestors. I heard multiple voices, and she said she felt them and she saw that there were multiple of them present in the session. And we heard a lot of the same messages. It was actually really beautiful. Um, and sometimes, like that Scorpio energy, you have to learn how to expel and shed lining. You have to learn how to cleanse yourself. You have to learn how to regenerate. You have to learn how to take the time to grow yourself back and to grow yourself forward and upward and onward. You have to take the time to um, heal because this is a lifetime of healing, of being broken down and healing. See, the thing about it is we're going to experience more trauma in our lives with the Scorpio North Node and even a Scorpio South Node. So if you're a Taurus North Node, um, a lot of the stuff that I'm speaking about with the South Node and Taurus can be applied to your current life. But yeah, so we're going to be broken down a lot and forced to heal back up. And I'm I was on a healing journey when I was traveling through Mexico. I'm currently back in the United States. Um, but yeah, I was on a healing journey and I found myself finally falling apart, finally letting my heart break so that way it could be put back together. And sometimes with us having that Taurus energy, we don't want to let things fall apart. We don't want to let things break. We don't want things that we find to be valuable to be damaged. We don't want things to break because we hold everything sentimentally. Even, like I said, relationships, friendships, loved ones, items, things that we hold on to, we don't really want to let them go because we've invested so much financially, emotionally, time wise. We put so much energy into these things. Hi, you guys. Hey, Brandy. Hey, 111E. Um, so we don't really like to let things go because we put so much into everything. But here in life, in this North Node in Scorpio, we're learning that a lot of those things that we invest into mentally, emotionally, financially, in our time and everything, um, a lot of times we can't carry that with us into the next stages of life. I'm really happy that you joined. I've been speaking for about 40 minutes, so there's a lot of information. But I'd love to just express to you in a very short way that, we have a Pluto ruled North Node. Okay, and so our South Node is ruled by Venus. So the transition between, it's like an opposition of Venus and Pluto, where we're seeing a growth in our life. And that's a tug of war because Venus is secure. You know, Venus wants to be secure, it wants to be happy, it likes relationships, it likes love, it likes nice things. It likes luxury, it likes to relax. It really likes things easy. That's really what Venus is about. Venus is a little bit superficial when you think about it. Now that's why it's exalted in Pisces, because then you're getting to a spiritual element. But Venus, you know, with Taurus South Node, we are comfortable with our lives. We've had wealth. We're used to wealth. We're used to nice things. We're used to holding on to things, valuing things, having things, antiques, collections, things that we probably don't use but won't get rid of because it's valuable. Um, and that's Venus, South Node, you know, Taurus. But then when you have Pluto North Node, which is Scorpio, you are now leaving from Venus, which is a really hot, warm planet, and going to the opposite, which is Pluto, which is a dwarf planet that is located in the Kuiper Belt, and it is nothing but volatile elements out there, and it's you know ice and all kind of things out there that is not really safe um, for anyone, and it's a chaotic environment. And so Pluto was created in chaos, and that's what it knows, and that's all it does is it brings chaos because that's what it's from, and that's what it knows, and that's what it does. But that chaos will, when it comes around, it evolves you, it grows you, it makes you become aware of who you are, you know so I'm happy to see that. Thank you. So yeah, so Pluto energy, especially somebody like me with a lot of Pluto, Scorpio, eighth house energy, um, we're here to do some major transformation. And so if you have a Scorpio North Node, you're here to transform in a major way, because the North Node is really, it starts to activate in your like mid to late 20s, and it's ongoing for the rest of your life. So you, once you become an adult, this is who you become, and you're growing into this as an adult forever, right? And that is hard, to experience, because there is no like a transit, like a Pluto transit, that's going to end, in a couple of years. Eighth house transit, that will end depending on what sign it's in within, sometimes days, weeks, months to a couple years, few years, whatever. But the North Node is a really more of a permanent fixture, and it's going to last from this lifetime and may even carry into multiple lifetimes moving forward, so you can really truly master this um, connection of change and growth and evolution. And see, the thing is, like, growing hurts. That's why they call it growing pains, right? They say, experiencing the truth also hurts. Um, being like opening yourself up and falling on your ass, it hurts. Um, Healing also hurts. Healing, one thing being on a healing journey I've learned is that healing hurts more than the actual initial pain that was inflicted upon you. It takes longer to heal than whatever happened, you know, and it's more painful because a lot of times when you have something happen to you, your cortisol and other hormones, adrenaline, and everything is pumping, and you tend to have a level of superhuman strength that is really lethal if it's given and pumped out by your brain and your body for extended periods of time. And so people who experience a lot of trauma, a lot of times you can have a shorter lifetime, or you can have more health problems because you are putting your body at risk by continuing to be in survivor mode. And one thing that, if you want to survive having a North Node in Scorpio is to learn how to resist and submit to the universe, which is hard for fixed placements of any element, whether that's water, fire, air, or earth. Fixed placements are hard at submitting. It's really hard to just let things be. It's really hard for us to just let go and let God. But that is the ultimate way for us to do so and to really get out of our own way of our growth and our evolution is to just let it go. And that's one thing you're here to do also in with the Scorpio North Node is to let it go. Because that Taurus South Node is holding on and holding on and holding on and holding you down to your attachments, holding you to what you've always known, holding you to small minded thinking, holding you to, the things that are comfortable to you but really are not conducive to your growth. Um, and your Scorpio North Node is telling you no, you have to change. Pluto, is actually, like, I guess you could say, is connected to Hades, right? And Hades, he took Persephone, which I would consider in this particular case to be a Venus energy, down. Took her down to freaking hell, basically, to his hell, to his lair, and wanted to take her and basically chain her up and make her a slave and keep her because he loved her and he wanted her. But there's um, an energy that Scorpio energy does when it's with Venus, which it makes it insecure. So you feel like you have to hold on to and attach yourself to it because you're afraid that if you let it go, it won't stay. So there's a lot of manipulation and there's a lot of coercion and forcing of things that don't naturally fit per se in order to get what you want. And so to me, that's that energy of having a Taurus South Node and a Pluto North Node because when you're leaving from your South Node, you're not fully going into your North Node. You're going to be in a transitionary period where at some point while you're in between the shifts, coming out of one thing and before you go into the next, you're going to be in limbo. And that in limbo stage is the part that's going to, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but that in limbo stage is the part that is where you're trying to find the balance, when you're learning that you have to let go, when you're learning to release your attachments, when you're learning to let go of the hands that once comforted you, when you have to take the training wheels off of the bike. That energy, when you're in the limbo between the South Node and the North Node, when you're just in the cusp of those two areas, that's going to be the part that's going to hurt the most because you're going to feel a lot of tension, was it? Resisting. I'm sorry. And you're going to experience a lot of confusion even because you don't know which way to go. Because, see, with South Node Taurus, we tend to feel very confident in ourselves and what we know because we've always known it and we've always done it and it's always worked. And when you get into this transitionary period, the things that you have done that have always worked are not going to work anymore. The comforts that you once had won't comfort you no more. And you're going to see that the things that you once had, you're going to lose. And being in that in between stage, as you start to inch towards that North Node and you get more towards the cusp of the North Node, you're going to see a lot of things break away and fall away and fall apart from you, including yourself. And that part of who you are that is breaking and falling apart, it is scary because you have done everything you could to hold yourself together. And so when you finally fall apart, you're going to feel like, damn, I failed. I've done all this. I've worked so hard to preserve myself through all this. And here I am. I can't even help it. I tried and I got knocked down. And so the important thing is to not beat yourself up about falling down, because that is an important part of this North Node. And you know what? I'm speaking to you guys, but really I'm speaking to myself, because I have a very hard time accepting my own humanity sometimes. Sometimes it's really hard for me, especially like as a diviner, as an astrologer, as a spiritualist. I can speak to the ancestors and I can talk to the dead folks and all this other shit. Like sometimes it's hard for me to realize that even with those gifts, I'm still just a regular human being that makes mistakes. And even when I know better, sometimes I don't do better. And sometimes, even with hoodoo and ebo and all these different tools that we use to make our lives a little bit easier, and when we try to persuade the universe to work in our favor and putting our intentions and manifestations in the world, like even then, the things that you're supposed to experience in life, especially if you're here to grow and to evolve, you're going to have to experience those uncomforts no matter how much shit you try to put into the world. You can feed your ancestors filet mignon and lobster tails, okay? You can do all that shit, right? But there's still going to be, like, you're still going to fucking have to go through the shit, right? Like, you could do that. You could give your ancestors all kind of water and food, and you know what I'm saying. You could go down by the river and leave Oshun some fucking honey and some flowers, and you know what I'm saying. Like you could do all kind of shit. You could, and trust me, I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on Ebo. Okay, trying to fight and resist this motherfucking change. Okay, I've been trying to stay comfortable, throwing money at my problems. You let me tell you something. When you got Scorpio North Node, throwing money at your problems is not some shit that's going to work. You just gonna lose your money. You just going to spend the money, and you might be cool for 2 3 months, but you gotta come right back and spend the shit again because you have to go through it. Now all you doing is prolonging it. You just putting off the inevitable. And so let me tell you, I could have had some more money, could have had a lot more a lot more peace of mind had I just let this shit happen naturally the way it wanted to happen. But no, no, no. My little Taurus South Node, okay, was thinking, let me just control, because of my Venus. You also have to look at the placement, So, like, for example, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and my Venus is ruled by Jupiter and is conjunct Pluto. So, yeah, I was trying to control my outcome. I thought I could control my life. I really was trying to say, listen, let me just give let me just give y'all some coins. Let me just sacrifice a little coin to make my life comfortable. And like, no, okay, I I cannot, and I'm having to accept that. Like, I accept that I am just a human being in this lifetime. No matter who I was in a previous lifetime, no matter who I am in the spiritual world, in this plane, on this time, this earth, I am a human being and I am flawed. And I got lessons to learn. I got shit that I cannot outrun. There's shit that I just cannot put off. And shit that's gonna be waiting for me when I'm obviously caught slipping. Okay? The universe came around, pumped you, just kicked me right in the goddamn mouth. Like, bitch, who you thought? You thought you was ducking me? You feel me? The universe said, "Oh, you thought you was ducking?" No. So I gotta stop. I'm realizing I can't duck the universe no more. Who I thought I was. I thought I was outsmarting the shit. You know what I'm saying? Let me go on the E5. Let me go to Oshun and pay this money for this Ebo. What I'm saying, sacrifice. No. The sacrifice, the Ebo, is me learning the fucking lesson in real time. Everything cannot be fixed with money. That's the lesson that I'm learning. And I spent a lot of time in my life thinking, well, when I have a lot of money, when I'm wealthy, when I'm happy, I'm not gonna have those problems. And the truth is, let me tell you, there was a time not too long ago, really, like a couple weeks ago, when I was like, damn, I got all this money in my account and I don't even know what to do with it. Like, I still feel the way that I feel. I still feel the way that I felt when I was broke. The money didn't fix it, didn't change it. It didn't. What changed was I had to change. I had to sit and learn those lessons. I had to grow. So I want everybody, especially because I have a lot of 10th house energy. Um, that's, a person that has a public life, and I have a lot of followers on Facebook and stuff like that. And so I'm not gonna say I'm a public figure by any means, but I can understand when a person gets to be famous, when they get to have a lot of money, how they have to reiterate that they still have regular people problems and money does not fix those things. And I know how easy it is for people to romanticize a life of a person who has a lot of money or a person that has a lot of fame or wealth or whatever. But the truth is, you have to learn your lessons no matter what your status is. You have to grow. You have to do your assignment no matter what your what you look like or how you are or whatever. Wherever you are, whether you at the top of the socioeconomical scale or the bottom of it, there's growth and there's learning to do for everybody. And some people's is going to be more seen and others may not. But regardless, there's not one person in this life that has never had a hard time, that's never experienced pain or hurt or things that had to grow and evolve their spirit. There's nobody, you know what I'm saying? There's nobody in this world that is above or below you. And that's another thing with the Scorpio North Node is you're going to see that there's nobody above you. Nobody in this world. When you start to see and realize your own humanity, you're going to be able to see the humanity in everyone else. How everybody else, even our parents. Whew, mm, let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about my life. I used to hate my parents, hated them. I hated them. I even hated my family. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I suffered a lot of pain at the hands of my caretakers, of those that were supposed to look out for me, protect me, and all those things. And I experienced a lot of pain from them. And I remember hating them. And getting into this place where I'm at right now, this minute today, I'm able to see I'm a human, I'm flawed. Even when I feel like I, should know better, sometimes I don't always do better. And I can see and I can accept that in my parents. I can see and I can accept that in all those that have hurt me. That doesn't mean that I want to be around them. And it doesn't mean that we're going to be buddy buddy. It doesn't mean that if anybody has crossed my boundaries or violated me in any type of way that they get the access to me in their lives again. But it does mean that I can accept that people make mistakes just like I can. And that's something that I did not always want to experience. That's not something I've always even accepted. That's not even something I've always thought of. There's not something I've even had it in my mind to see. But Scorpio North Node also forces you to learn forgiveness as well. And forgiveness is going to be personal to you and what that means to you, at least in my life, in my book, in my world, in my existence and consciousness. Forgiveness means I can accept what has happened and I can let it go. I can accept that it happened, I can let it go, and I can move forward. That does not mean that you get to be back in my life. That does not mean that you and I are going to be buddy buddy. We're going to rekindle a flame. We're going to be kikiing. We're going to go on vacation together, get our nails done together. It doesn't mean none of that shit. It just means that personally, I accept it and I let it go. I accept that my parents made mistakes. I accept that they were very young when they had me. I accept that they did not always know the right thing to do. I accept that they did the best that they could with what they had and what they were taught. I accept that. And with that acceptance, I am able to really just move on. Just move on. Move on and continue with my path. Move on and continue with my life. Move on and continue with my journey. Because even though they have hurt me, even though they have done the things that they have done to me, and all the people, really, every single person that I've experienced pain through, um, I am now in a place of empowerment where I didn't feel like I had it before. I am in a place of great evolution, and I am in a place of really being able to define life on my for myself and my terms. With the South Node and Taurus, you tend to take values that or family values, or you tend to hold on to what your family has done, or how your environment was used to being in life. That's what the Taurus South Node would do. Scorpio is saying, I'm here to create my own new vision, and I'm here to, I guess you could say, choose my my what I want for myself in my life. You know, that's what that looks like for a Scorpio, is to say, hey, listen, these are my standards, not the standards that were thrust upon me, not what I'm accepting just because this is what it's always been like, but this is what I want for myself. And you get to choose that. You get the chance to make that happen for yourself. And I want to cry tears of joy because I feel like I'm coming out of that fog that I was in. And like, I had some really dark moments these last few months, really. Especially this last month has been really hard for me, but I'm coming out of it being able to see, like, I'm in a place of empowerment when I probably didn't see that. I saw myself at the bottom. I saw myself really low. I saw myself in a place where I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel good. I didn't see myself. I didn't have a lot of joy. And I see that I have the opportunity to create my joy. I can create what I want. I can create my reality. I can create the things that I would like to do. And all I have to do is trust that I will get there in due time. And that I can trust that, the lessons that I'm learning between now and then is actually really valuable and actually worth it um, to learn, and it's worth the journey to get there, instead of instant gratification, of really allowing myself to fully come into who I am, so that way when I do have what I'm trying to get, I'm ready for it, you know? And that's where I'm at on it. Like, I feel a lot of peace in ways that I didn't have before, and a lot of that I feel is because of the Reiki, not just because of the Reiki, but finally feeling that, because I'm gonna be honest with you, it's, especially as a diviner, it's so hard for me to listen to other readers and feel connected to what they're saying. But today, for some reason, I knew that she was telling me something that came from my ancestors, because we said the same messages. The messages she said is the ones I heard. And I know when she was speaking those words to me, I know that that was me having the universe tell me, like, you are in your activation of your north node. You are in your north node right now, and you gotta stop holding on to that Taurus shit. You gotta let go of that Taurus south node. All them shits that you was holding on to, you gotta let it go. And I'm letting it go. Letting go of exes, letting go of expectations. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. letting go of all the things that I was holding on to, grudges, letting go of shit that just ain't serving me. Shit that just I used to be mad about everything. I used to hold on to everything, never forgetting anything anyone has ever done wrong to me. Just holding on to shit, just carrying a bunch of weight, just carrying a bunch of karma and trauma and pain and anger. And I was rightfully angry. Like I deserved to express it, but I held it inside instead. And the truth is, at this point in my life right now, I am ready for this change. This major change, this beautiful change. And I'm a part of it and I'm submitting to it fully. And so I hope that a person with a Scorpio North Node who happens to come across this video, whether now or anytime in the future, if anybody ever decides to come back and watch, I hope that you finally let go and let God. Because let me tell you, the more you chase things, the more they're going to run away from you. With this particular North Node, especially things that you think are valuable, especially things that you want to hold on to, and especially like things like money. When you let go, it's going to come. I promise you it will. And trust me, I mean it. Um, so right now, I'm not accepting any clients. I have my books off because I'm just doing some deep healing and I'm growing and I'm becoming better, a better me and a happier me and a fuller me and a healthier me. And I'm being fully present with my child, and I'm also creating a business. So right now, I'm not accepting anybody, but I feel like that's necessary for people who do spiritual services is to take time to grow. And really, not just that, but even outside of spiritual services, if you have a Scorpio North Node, you got to take some time to grow. That means you might have to take some time away from friendships, relationships, family. You know, you might have to really stop serving everybody until you learn how to heal and fix yourself, because that's exactly what you have to do in order to be there for other people. You have to. So I generally don't use my phone. I generally don't answer calls. I generally don't respond to messages now, because that is important for us, you know, and for me right now is to regenerate. I'm coming back to me. I'm fully growing back, and it's going to take time until I get there and get adjusted to myself again. And then once I do that, I will then be able to help other people. But right now, I don't. And I took all my videos off my page, except for the ones that I'm going to post for really for me to look back onto, um, because this is a part of my life and a journey in my life that I really want to share, mainly for myself, but for whomever else is deciding to, click in and watch. And so I thank you guys for watching this one with me and for adding great input. And I really wish you guys the best in your journeys, because it is not an easy one. We did not choose an easy life, and we didn't choose an easy life for a reason. And that's because we really want to focus on the growth in this life. And it's easier to grow when life isn't easy. When life is easy, you don't want to grow, because you don't have a reason to. So we chose a purposely hard knock life to be the best versions of ourselves, and we're some brave motherfuckers to do so. I promise you, we are the curse breakers. Having that Scorpio North Node is this curse breakers fucking placement if I ain't never seen one, okay? We're the ones to really change the trajectory of the family, of our lives, of everything. We're here to be really different. And in doing this, it's like we are the ones that make the changes for real. But it starts with us first. We're the ones that make the changes internally, and then everything from here on out will change. So I want to let you know I love you guys. I really love you guys. I pray that you guys have love and support during this time. And I'll be honest also, one thing as well is I felt disconnected from my ancestors and guides while I was going through these changes. And the truth is, they never left me. I just felt disconnected because sometimes they can't hold your hand. Some things in life your ancestors cannot shield you from. Some things in life you really just got to go through alone. And they didn't let me go through it alone. They just backed up a little bit so I can grow a little bit bigger, if that makes some sense. So I hope that if you feel lost, if you feel like you don't got nobody, I promise you, you do. They just backed up so you can have some space to grow. All right, y'all. Love you. Bye bye.